You're watching TTV, and this is the Big Small Business Show. I'm your host, Charlie Christmas, and today we have a super exciting episode for you. Are you an entrepreneur, or would you like to start your own business? If the answer is yes to both of those questions, then you need to keep watching because this is the episode for you. Today, we're going to be talking all about how to set up an SME in Oman. And today, it's my great pleasure to introduce you to our expert guest, Amal Raisi. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We are delighted to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm going to read this because this is a very, very long business name. You're associate lawyer with Nasser Shamli Advocates and Legal Consultants in association with Kennedy's. Is that right? Okay, well, there you go. So firstly, let's find out a little bit about you. Now, previously, before we started recording, you did mention that you used to be an MUA, so you used to do makeup, and then we've gone from makeup to law. How did that happen?
I used to be a makeup artist. I loved putting makeup for people, and it was just a hobby. It was not...
like a side hustle.
Yes, exactly. So I studied law as a profession for a later stage. So it was not like a long-term profession as a makeup artist. It was just for my free time. I studied law in Sultan Qaboos University.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't study law in the beginning. I was studying in College of Commerce for almost a year and a half. It was not planned to study law. It was against my family's wish.
Wow. Okay.
So it was something different because no one is from a legal background in our family.
Right.
They're just like doctors, engineers, so these usual and common professions. So being a female lawyer in a family was something new. So I was studying in College of Commerce without my, as front of everyone. And then I moved to College of Law. No one knew from my family, no one at all, not even my father.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then I surprised my family before graduating almost a year. I was like, I'm studying law, by the way.
What a fantastic story. Oh my goodness.
And it was a shock for everyone. But now everyone comes to me whenever they need any legal advice, any legal thing. They're just like, let's go to Amal. She's going to help.
Well, we're coming to you for advice as well. So here we are. We've had COVID, global pandemic for 2 years, which has disrupted the world and SMEs, large companies throughout the globe. Obviously, us here in Muscat and Oman, we were not immune to the effects of that. And I'm sure in your profession, you see the effects every day. But it does feel like we've come to a stage now where we are pushing through. And, although we did have quite a lot of people leave Oman, obviously expats, it feels like people are starting to come back now. And obviously they are wanting to invest in the country, invest in the economy, and they're welcomed as usual to come and do that. So my first question to you is, what are the different types of companies that can be set up in Oman?
There are 7 companies that can be set up in Oman, which were stipulated in the Sultani Decree 18/2019 in the issuance of Commercial Companies Law. So the first company is a joint liability company. The second one is a limited liability company, joint venture. There is joint stock companies, public and closed. For example, the joint venture companies, the closed joint ventures, the capital minimum is 500,000 riyals.
Okay.
And for the public joint stock companies, the minimum is 2 million Omani riyals.
Yeah.
And we have limited liability companies. This is the most favorite type of company.
It's the easiest, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's easy to set up. It's easy to handle. Everything is just smooth, and it's the most common type of companies here. It can be. It consists of minimum of 2 natural or juristic persons.
Okay.
Up to 50. So, and there is no minimum requirements for the capital. In the old law, the minimum was approximately 150,000 riyals.
Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah.
And now there is like no minimum capital for this type of companies. That's why the investors are more attracted to it, especially now. And the other thing about this company, which is really good, that the liabilities does not extend to the personal monies and properties of the shareholders. It's just up to their shareholdings in their company. So it makes the investors on the safe side at the same time.
Yeah.
And there is this new type of companies which was introduced in this Sultani decree, which is the 1% company. It can be fully owned by either a natural person or a juristic person.
Okay.
So it's like 100% for one person. However, the natural or juristic person cannot open another company.
Oh, so they're limited to just one.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's this type of companies is an LLC as well. So the same rules, the same regulations are in this type of companies.
Okay, that's so interesting. I didn't know that. So we've got 7 different companies that can be set up in Oman. How easy is it exactly to set up here at the moment?
Yeah, let's take an LLC, for example. I will take you through how to set up the LLC. It's very easy, as long as you maintain and fulfill the requirements of the ministry. So the first step, anyone wants to open an LLC here needs to reserve a name for the company. Once we reserve a name, the name cannot be similar to one of the names which are existing as a company's name. And the second thing, that it doesn't have to, it's not supposed to be misleading.
Okay.
So it's supposed to be relevant to the activities of the company.
Sure.
And there are other requirements for the names, but these are the main requirements for choosing a name.
I'm presuming, sorry to butt in, but I'm presuming that if a name is chosen, you have to clearly be able to understand it both in English and in Arabic. Yeah.
And when you do that, the first thing you do is at the ministry. So you need to check with them if the name is available in English and Arabic.
Okay.
So they usually help and they recommend what you need to change. So it's not like something really hard to do. Sometimes it's just like add United, remove United.
Oh, so a little tweak
things,
here and there. Okay.
Just to make it easier for the investors. So once the ministry approves the name, the second thing to do is to apply. How to apply? There is this great Invest Easy portal, which the Minister of Commerce have.
I've heard of it, yeah.
It's really helpful for everyone. So there are some documents which are required, for example, shareholders, passports or IDs, or what else we need? We need the authorized signatories' passports and IDs. We need, there is this form at the ministry which needs to be filled and signed. It's a standard form. And we need a constitutive contract of the company. We need shareholders' resolution as well. Okay. So these documents, once we fill them and prepare them, the ministry asked for a project brief description. It's just like one paragraph, nothing else. They just need to know that you're serious about setting up this company and you have goals to set up this company. It's not just like, let's set up one company for no reason.
So during the setup, Is it something that I can do myself, or do I really need to go through a Sanad office in order? What would your recommendation be?
Yeah. Usually investors can do this, but it's going to be more complicated to them. So a Senate office they can do, and law firms can do. Okay. We usually do that. It's something easy for us because we know the process. We know how to deal with things. So if we're going to do it for them, it's like faster for the investor. And the investor doesn't need more headache. So we're going to take the headache from him.
I like that. Everyone likes that.
So we're going to make it easier for him. That's why we usually recommend that we do it for them, just to make the process smooth. You just choose your name, choose the shareholders, authorized signatories, and each shareholdings in the companies. Just give us your documents, you'll get your company ready. As long as you tell us as well the activities you're going to practice. So we need to know everything about the company. So once we apply for this, it goes under the process of the staff in the ministry. So then we have to pay the fees. Fees are different. It's depending on the activity itself.
Okay.
Before, we used to pay 3,000 as a minimum for companies which are with foreign investors. But during COVID, that was the good thing. There were like discounts for the investors. Some of them were like from 3,000, you're going to just pay 200 something. So it was really discounted. And that was one of the good things about COVID.
Because it was just a little boost, after COVID to help people get back on their feet and also to stimulate the economy, which is so important.
Yeah, they were like facilitating everything for the investors to invest in Oman. So that was a great step for them. So like some investors were like, they had this budget for the company and they were like, they saved more than 3,000. Yes. So these things are, the investor won't know it. The lawyers actually, they know these because they usually go to the ministry and they follow up and they check the regulations. So everything is easier with us. So that's why we recommend going to lawyers to do this process for them.
It's so quick and easy.
Yeah, and during filing the application, we filed for the OCCI certificate, Oman Chamber and Commerce Industry. It's sometimes it's for a year and 2 years, depending on the fees you're gonna pay.
Okay.
So after that, you need to get municipality a license. You need to license the activities, which needs approvals.
Is this something that's also done through you?
Yes, we usually do that. Yeah. So
you're doing all the donkey work.
Everything, even tax registration, we're doing that.
Fantastic.
We're doing everything, and sometimes we're even helping the investors to get their visas done. So like we're providing the whole thing for them.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And in your opinion, as we're moving forward and the economy is being boosted as it is, what would you say are the benefits or, in fact, the downsides of setting up an SME in Oman?
The most great benefit is the 100%. So there is 100% ownership for the investor. The old law and regulations were like 70% foreigners, investors, and then 30 Omanis. Yes. But now you can just get your 100% ownership, but there are like restrictions for this. There are almost 70 prohibited activities which they cannot do.
That are reserved purely for
Omanis.
Citizens.
Yeah. For example, the investors cannot have like a recruitment or employment offices. They cannot have real estate brokerage offices. So these things need to be checked before applying for this.
So those things that you've just mentioned, that is for 100% ownership.
Yes.
But they could, an expat could have a joint in those.
Yeah, with Omanis,
categories.
They can have these,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's one of the benefits. And the other thing which attracts the tourists is the security stability in Oman.
Yeah.
It's very secure. Huge. Yeah, so people are usually attracted because of this. And it's something good that we're in the GCC, people are attracted to us because of this. Also the location. It's located
beautiful.
in a very good place. Also, the regulations are not as other countries. It's not that complicated. So everything is easier for them.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Another benefit is that there is no capital requirement, as I've already said. So you can just open your company without worrying about the minimum requirement, because it's just gone. And for the challenges, this is a challenge that investors find, but here in Oman, we don't find it as a challenge, which is Omanization. The Omanization is 15% to 60%. So some investors are not happy with this. So it might be a challenge for them. And also there is corporate tax, which
is now introduced.
So these are the main challenges for the companies here.
So as we mentioned previously, obviously we've gone through a global pandemic over the past 2 years. A lot of companies obviously struggled immensely during that time. It was an unprecedented time. I don't think anyone in the world really knew how to deal with this as far as business was concerned. And I do remember as we were going through the worst parts that there were a lot of disputes happening. People weren't getting paid, but then obviously the owners of companies weren't generating any revenue. It was sort of a chicken and egg scenario. So what sort of system is in place to deal with that kind of trouble?
The most usual mechanism is litigation before the Omani courts.
Okay.
The Omani courts are a primary court, court of appeal, and court of cassation.
Okay.
However, there are alternative ways for dispute resolutions. For example, arbitration and mediation. Mediation comes before arbitration and going to litigation. There is a center here called Oman Commercial Arbitration Center. It provides services for arbitration and mediation. So everything is just in one place.
Okay, that's wonderful.
And one more thing, because of this, there is this simplification of litigation procedures, which was a Sultani decree, which was issued. So it simplifies investment cases.
Okay.
So it deals with investment cases, actually.
I understand.
So it covers these things. It's like expediting the process. For example, like 3 months, 4 months as a maximum. So like there are several things covered under this.
Because I remember sort of many years ago, it used to be quite a long, drawn out process. So it's really good to hear that there are different things in place, and it's quicker for everyone involved.
Exactly.
Because no one wants to be in a dispute for a long time. This is probably one of the questions on my entrepreneurs group that gets asked the most. It's actually split into 2 questions. The first is, what is a free zone? And the second is, where are they in Oman?
Free zones are zones which attract investment. There are like several facilities for the investors. No taxes are there, and several things. So it's like places for investors to invest in with less restrictions.
Okay. So what's the actual benefit of doing that?
It's the same thing, 100% ownership of the investor. Okay. And there are like exemption for tax for almost 30 years, depending on the free zone itself. Some free zones, they give like exemption for 20 years. Some they give for 30. So and the Omanization requirement is lesser than the usual ones.
Okay.
There's sometimes 10%, depending on the free zone. So there are like facilitating the investor companies there.
And is it also the same rule that there are certain activities that you cannot do in the free? Is that the same?
Yes, it's the same. There are several activities that cannot be done there. So it's all in the royal decrees. They're all mentioned in the ministerial decisions. So everything is just listed down. So there are activities that investors cannot.
And again, it's, I guess, important to do this either through a law firm such as yourselves or a Sanad office or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So how easy is it, or how difficult is it to set up a free zone?
It's actually easier to set up a free zone because there are like less requirements and restrictions. So some of them, they just do it in 1-2 days there.
Really?
Because it's very easy. For example, Sohar Free Zone. They have one shop stop. It's called one shop stop.
Is it actually called that?
Finished, yeah. It's OSS.
Amazing.
They can finish everything in that place. So like registering for the getting the commercial registration, getting the certificates, the tax exemption certificates, labor visa, everything can be done in that OSS. So it's easier for investors to invest there. And that's why people usually get attracted to these places. Yeah. And that's the point of the free zones, to make it easier for investors to invest in the country to get a higher economic revenue.
Output, yeah. And so how many free zones are here?
We have Sohar Free Zone, we have Salada Free Zone, we have Al Mazyuna Free Zone, and Al Duqm Free Zone.
So 4?
Yes, they are.
That's wonderful. And our last but not least question, what are the advantages or even the disadvantages of setting up a free zone in Oman?
Yeah, we'll begin with the advantages.
Okay.
The first and main advantage is the 100% foreign ownership. And the second thing is the reduction and lower requirement for Omanization, which I've already said that investors find it a challenge.
Yes.
And another thing is there are no tax, there are tax exemptions up to 30 years. One more thing is the custom duties on the goods. There are no custom duties and no currency restrictions as well. Yeah. So the advantages are
quite
more,
major. Yes,
for
they are quite major.
Yeah. And for the disadvantages, there are lesser. One of the disadvantages is that once you set up a company in the free zone, you have to rent your commercial office there. So it's mandatory for you to rent there.
Okay. So if you're actually working in Muscat, you could actually have your office based in Sohar. Is that the situation?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And
so you might need 2 offices.
Exactly. Okay. And the procedures there are different than the procedures here. So like they're just way too different from each other. And the other thing is that if you want to renew your license, you need to submit your annual audited financials to the authority.
Okay.
So it's like other than what's happening in the other parts in the country.
I understand. I understand. Yeah. Well, we've covered a lot. I know that you have answered many questions that our viewers ask on a regular basis. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. And as ever, if you have any questions for Amal, please pop them in the comments and we will make sure that we get back to you. Thank you for watching and we'll see you next time. Join us on the Big Small Business Show every Sunday at 8 p.m. on TTV.